Have you ever wondered if humans are the only creatures that experience irrational fears? Well, as it turns out, we're not alone. The animal kingdom is full of fascinating examples of creatures that exhibit phobia-like behaviors. Welcome to Perenwara, where we uncover the strange and bizarre world of phobias. Whether it's uncovering the origins of our fears, understanding the quirks of the human mind, or diving into intriguing psychological phenomena. Today, we're diving into the weirdest phobias in the animal kingdom. Get ready to be amazed by how animals, just like us, sometimes let fear dictate their actions. Let's start with one of the most intriguing examples: elephants and their fear of bees. Yes, you heard that right. Elephants, these massive, seemingly fearless giants, are terrified of tiny buzzing bees. This isn't just a myth. It's backed by science. Studies have shown that elephants will actively avoid areas where they hear the sound of buzzing bees. Even a simple recording of bee sounds is enough to send them running. Why? Well, elephants have sensitive skin, and a bee sting, particularly around their eyes or inside their trunks, can be incredibly painful. To avoid these unpleasant encounters, elephants have evolved to steer clear of bees entirely. Farmers in some parts of Africa even use beehive fences to protect their crops from elephant raids. It's a remarkable example of how a seemingly insignificant creature can instill fear in such a powerful animal. Even more fascinating is how this fear influences the environment. By avoiding areas with bees, elephants indirectly create safe zones for certain plants and smaller animals that might otherwise be trampled. It's an intricate web of interactions driven by one tiny insect. Next up, we have the fear of water in certain species of ants. While many ant species are excellent swimmers, some display an intense aversion to water. Take the fire ant, for example. These ants will go to great lengths to avoid water, even forming living rafts with their bodies during floods to stay dry. But their aversion goes beyond practicality. Scientists believe this fear might be rooted in survival instincts, as water poses a significant threat to their colonies. Even a small amount of water can disrupt their tunnels and drown their young. This fear ensures their survival by keeping them vigilant against any potential water-related dangers. Interestingly, this behavior has inspired research into how to better manage pests using controlled water exposure, showing that understanding fear in animals can have practical applications for humans. Another fascinating case is that of horses and their fear of plastic bags. If you've ever been around horses, you might have noticed their tendency to shy away from random objects, especially if they make sudden movements or noises. Plastic bags are a prime example. To a horse, a plastic bag fluttering in the wind might resemble a predator or an unknown threat. This reaction is part of their prey instincts. Horses are naturally flighty animals, and their survival in the wild depended on their ability to react quickly to potential dangers. While domestic horses are far removed from their wild ancestors, this instinctive fear remains deeply ingrained. Trainers often work with horses to desensitize them to these fears, but even the most experienced horse can react unpredictably when faced with a perceived threat. Speaking of prey instincts, let's talk about birds and their fear of brightly colored objects, especially red. Certain species of birds, like pigeons, exhibit an aversion to red objects. Scientists believe this might be due to the association of red with danger, such as blood or venomous creatures. This fear helps them avoid potential threats in their environment. Interestingly, this behavior is so predictable that some urban planners use red objects to deter birds from certain areas. But this fear isn't universal. Some birds are actually attracted to red, seeing it as a signal for ripe fruit or flowers. It's fascinating how the same color can evoke such different reactions depending on the species. Now, let's turn our attention to marine life. Did you know that some fish are terrified of their own reflections? The betta fish, also known as the Siamese fighting fish, is a prime example. When placed in a tank with a mirror, a betta fish will often perceive its reflection as a rival and react aggressively. However, prolonged exposure to the reflection can lead to stress and avoidance behavior, almost as if the fish is afraid of the rival it can't defeat. This reaction is believed to be an evolutionary adaptation to avoid unnecessary energy expenditure in prolonged fights. Over time, this fear response may even influence their social behavior in tanks with other fish. Moving on to a more peculiar example, we have sloths and their fear of climbing down from trees. Sloths spend most of their lives hanging upside down in trees, and for a good reason. It's where they're safest from predators. But when they do need to descend, such as to relieve themselves, they exhibit hesitant and cautious behavior. This isn't necessarily a phobia, but rather an extreme fear response. Sloths are incredibly vulnerable on the ground, as their slow movements make them easy targets. Their fear of leaving the safety of their trees is a survival mechanism that minimizes risk. Interestingly, researchers have found that this fear might also contribute to their unique symbiotic relationships with tree-dwelling organisms, such as algae and insects that live in their fur. Then there's the curious case of dogs and their fear of loud noises, like thunder or fireworks. While this might seem more common than weird, it's worth noting how deeply this fear can affect some dogs. Scientists believe this aversion stems from their heightened senses, particularly their acute hearing. Loud, sudden noises can be overwhelming and disorienting for them. Some dogs will go to great lengths to escape these sounds, hiding under furniture or trying to flee entirely. In extreme cases, this fear can lead to severe anxiety and stress, requiring intervention from their owners or even professional training. This fear isn't limited to domestic dogs. Wild canines like wolves have also been observed displaying heightened caution during storms, showing that this behavior might have deep evolutionary roots. Viral videos have shown cats leaping into the air at the sight of a cucumber placed behind them. While it's amusing to watch, the reaction is believed to be rooted in their survival instincts. To a cat, a cucumber placed unexpectedly in their environment might resemble a snake or another predator. This sudden threat triggers a fight-or-flight response, leading to their dramatic reactions. However, experts caution against intentionally scaring cats in this way, as it can cause unnecessary stress. Interestingly, this behavior also sheds light on how cats process their surroundings and react to changes in their environment. Another aquatic example involves octopuses and their fear of light. Many species of octopuses are nocturnal and prefer the safety of darkness. Bright light can make them feel exposed and vulnerable to predators. This fear is so pronounced that they'll go to great lengths to hide or camouflage themselves in well-lit environments. It's a fascinating glimpse into how even intelligent creatures like octopuses rely on fear to navigate their surroundings. Some researchers are exploring how this sensitivity to light can be used to better understand their complex nervous systems. Finally, let's discuss the strange case of penguins and their fear of falling. While penguins are incredibly agile in the water, they can be quite clumsy on land. Some researchers have observed that certain penguins show hesitation or fear when approaching steep inclines or edges. This cautious behavior is likely an adaptation to prevent injuries, as a bad fall can be fatal for these flightless birds. Their fear keeps them safe in their often harsh and slippery environments. What's particularly interesting is how penguins use this caution to teach their young, ensuring that the next generation learns to navigate their treacherous habitats safely. These examples show that fear isn't just a human experience. It's a universal emotion that plays a crucial role in the survival of all creatures. From elephants avoiding bees to penguins fearing falls, the animal kingdom is full of fascinating and often surprising instances of phobia-like behaviors. These fears remind us that while the triggers might differ, the function of fear, to protect and preserve life, is a shared trait across species. By studying these behaviors, we gain a deeper appreciation for the complexity of animal life and a better understanding of our own fears. After all, fear is a fundamental part of what it means to be alive, whether you're a human, an elephant, or even a tiny ant.